Welcome back, guys. It's been a while now. I've had some requests for the doctor's opinion that I failed to cover in the first 164 pages and the first, 11 chapters. So today, after I have been, again, questioned about it via the comments section, which please feel free to jump in. I thought I'd do it for you guys and get it over with. Get your trusty highlighter out. We need this. Okay, guys. Okay, I'll say one more thing quickly before we start. There was also a question in regards to the forwards, first, second, third, fourth edition. I will say this, guys. Most of the forwards are really about AA's growth. Back of the book, there's different stories. They vary between editions. Yes. Let's say this is the most important part here, guys. We Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That's what you recovered from. And what is the purpose of this book? The purpose is to show other alcoholics precisely how we've recovered is the main purpose of this book. If people are wondering, what is the purpose of the big book? There you go. Forward to the first edition. All right. Rock and roll time, guys. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. It's Tuesday where I am filming and still doing that COVID quarantine thing here on Vancouver Island. But anyways, let's jump to it, guys. Starting at the top, we have Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have experience with sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. A well-known doctor, keep in mind, guys, what is he? He's a well-known doctor. He's talking about alcoholism. He's a chief physician of a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He's not only a doctor, but where does he work? He works at a nationally prominent hospital that specializes in alcoholic and drug addiction. And not only that, he's the number one boss man. All right, let's get to it. How about that? It's a pretty ugly highlight. To whom it may concern. I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. Late 1934, I attended a patient who, by the way, this is, I think he's speaking about not Dr. Bob, but Bill W. I attended a patient who had, being a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he had acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conception to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise, i.e. step 12, with still others. This has become the basis of a rapid growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have what? Chief physician is saying what? They have recovered. I personally know scores of cases where the type with whom other methods have failed completely. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely. Guess what, guys? You may absolutely rely on what's written in the friggin' big book. Oh my gosh, my highlighter is not working well today. And who is that doctor? Dr. Silkworth. Okay, back to it. The physician, at our request, gave this letter, has been kind enough to enlarge upon his view in another statement which follows. In the statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe, that the body of the alcoholic is quite abnormal as his mind. Twofold. Centers in the mind and where? In the body, right? It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us. But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little. But as experienced problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Though we work out our solution, how do we work out our solution, my friends? We do it on the spiritual as well as the altruistic plane. Getting out of ourself, getting into God, getting into universe, getting into source, right? But we also know that there's a medical portion that needs to be addressed, guys. Right? So I was lucky when I came in, I just went into AA. I never went to treatment, and luckily I never was in that bad of a shape, thank goodness, or maybe I was just bullheaded, that I never went to detox. But these things in AA are talking about doing these things, right? It's not just about skipping over the allergy or the mental state, the delirium tremors. People can die when they're coming off of alcohol or drugs. It's something you got to be really careful with. Okay, back to it. More often than not, it's imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he is then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. Back to Mr. Silkworth, doctor. Who is he? Who is Dr. Silkworth? Chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction. Doctor's opinion is back at it. Here we go. The subject presented in this book seems to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with what? People talk about having drug addiction, can't be in AA or whatever. Read more stories. Read acceptance is the answer in the back of the book. It doesn't matter, guys. We're just trying to get closer to God and healed. Call it addiction, call it alcoholism. We're here to get well. I say this after many years' experience as a medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country, treating alcoholic and drug addiction. There was, therefore, a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such mastery detail in these pages. Talking about the big book. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in the hospital, and while he acquired some ideas he put into practical application. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness, guys, of these men and women have come to know them, the entire absence of profit, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and weary in the alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in what? God. Why? It's capitalized, right? P, noun, singular. We're believing in the universal power, love, whatever you want to call it. That's where our belief resides in. Which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death, insanity, and of course, jail. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure. Before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit, we believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol in these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of what? What is it? It's a manifestation of an allergy. So I have an allergy to dairy. I've had an allergy since I was a baby. They didn't think that you could be a baby and be allergic to breast milk. I didn't sleep for the first few years of my life. But once I found out what the problem was, that I was actually in fact allergic to dairy and not just lactose, I was restored to a place of harmony with life, and I was able to grow up and be healthy again, right? So there's an allergy involved here, guys. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to the class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. So it's like a switch. Alcoholics cross over a switch. And then we become people that have this phenomenon of craving. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Once having formed a habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices, guys. The message which can interest and hold the alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must. What's that, guys? In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. This is the doctor. Once again, let's go back. Who is he? The chief physician of a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction in the United States. Does he know what he's talking about experience when it comes to dealing with the alcoholic mind or the drug addict? I would say he does. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men and women, of course, than the altruistic movement now growing up among them, called AA, of course. Men and women who drink essentially because, I don't know about you guys, but this is true for me too. I drank because I liked the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive. While they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, the alcoholic life seems only the normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented, unless what? Unless they can again experience the sense of ease, of comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Okay, so guys, guess what? We used to drink and drug for what? So we could get to a place, as sensitive people wanting to be in a place of ease and comfort. What if I told you, if you stuck to this program and a path, you could get to a place where you're in a place sensing ease and comfort on a regular basis? That's been my experience. And I believe it's going to be your experience too, if you just simply do what I did. So please have some hope, guys. This isn't a book for only special people. This is a book for the masses. It's all about love and healing. Okay. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over. Unless the person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of his recovery. On the other hand, as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that it required to follow a few simple what? They are not suggestions. Hello? They are rules. I would say they're musts, if you will. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop. But I cannot. You must help me." Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. May as well underline that too. I like it. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort or psychiatric, sorry guys, I'm ESL today. Effort is considerable. We physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach and do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. There are many situations arise out of the phenomenon of craving which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than to continue to fight. It's heartbreaking when you hear about this too, I tell you. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult, and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. We are familiar with this type. They are always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over-remorseful and make many resolutions, but never what? There's finality when it comes to decisions, guys. No flip-flopping. There's the type of man who's unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand and his environment. There's the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. There's the manic depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people. So I think I would be more in the manic depressive and normal in every respect of life. This is where I would fit in. I don't know if I was in that place of thinking that I'd be able to outsmart it, because I never wanted to outsmart alcoholism. I just wanted to get wild. I wanted to go into the dark side. And I still have that belief inside of me, which has maybe helped me stay sober too. I don't have that bullshit lie in my head. You know, I know that I'm an alcoholic. They're often able, intelligent, friendly people. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire absence. This immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, the general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. What is the solution, guys? Remember, this is still the doctor talking. Perhaps I can best answer this by relating one of my experiences. About a year prior to this experience, a man was brought to be treated for chronic alcoholism. He had but partly recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was only living, one might say, to drink. He frankly admitted and believed that for him, there was no hope. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I talked with him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger. And so he left me. A long time has passed with no return to alcohol. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. The patient had made his own diagnosis and, deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn, determined to die. He was rescued by a searching party and, in desperate condition, brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated that he thought the treatment was a waste of effort, unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the quote-unquote willpower to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we called moral psychology, and we doubted, if ever, that would have had any effect. However, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. He has not had a drink for many years. I see him now and then, and he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. So, you might scoff at this material in this book, but that's okay. You scoffing doesn't stop it from working. At that, guys, I'm going to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the questions, the comments that got me to do this video of the doctor's opinion again. Don't forget to like and subscribe.